Miles of traffic blocked as pro-Palestinian protesters block and shut down NC 147. Ahead, we're live with the group's demands.
Then Raleigh is getting new help to keep crime out of our community. Only on WRAL, see what changes a new program could make to keep you and your family safe.
This Arctic air is bringing some of us down into the 20s. I'll show you who's impacted and time out the warm-up so you can plan your weekend.
Then, as we prepare to fall back this weekend, WRAL is going in-depth on daylight saving time. We continue following breaking news at this hour. A group of protesters calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas blocking traffic on the Durham freeway at rush hour. And still at this hour, a large scene, as you can see. There's a police presence here as well. Multiple other agencies have joined in the response. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. We have live team coverage for you of what is happening right now. We'll give you a look at the traffic situation as well and how to get around it if you are stuck in it. Let's begin with WRAL's Aaron Thomas, who is there live. Aaron, what's the latest?
Yeah, Dan, Ashley, we have been here for several hours now, and as of 7 o'clock, this is still an active scene. We've seen a lot of activity from these protesters here on the Durham Freeway. This is the northbound lane. They went from sitting down and standing up. You can see they have both lanes blocked. Police, as a result, have had to divert traffic for people trying to come into downtown Durham to another way. There are some officers that are staged behind them, on the side of them. It was actually within the past hour that officers declared this, quote, an illegal protest, but here we are an hour later. So far, no arrests have been made. As for the perimeter, you have some folks that are actually on this bridge here. This is Mangum Street as well as Jackie Robinson Drive. The crowd size has definitely dwindled. Of course, it's cold outside, but it's still a significant presence of people of all ages and backgrounds. You know, some Jewish, others are not. This is described as a pro-Palestinian group. This is Jewish Voice for Peace. They actually started protesting this afternoon in downtown Durham at CCB Plaza. Actually spoke with one of the volunteers of this group. I asked, did they imagine that it would go from something peaceful over in downtown to where we are right now with the traffic being blocked? She was saying, obviously, this is huge, and this is their way of amplifying their voices. And some of these protesters you see here are willing to be arrested if it means they're getting their message out there, calls for a ceasefire in the Middle East to happen. Now, I've heard them chant several times out here. They've been singing. There have been some prayers. They're definitely calling on those congressional members of representing the Triangle to sign that resolution calling for a ceasefire. We've actually reached out to some of those representatives, as Valerie Fouché and Deborah Ross, of course, keeping a pulse on things. But as of 7 o'clock tonight, this still remains an active scene. If you know anyone trying to come into Durham on the Durham Freeway, NC 147 northbound, just know this is the result with the traffic being blocked. Back to you.
Of course, that is a big part of the story, as you know, Aaron, live in Durham. Thank you. So, Mark, let's touch base with you. Give us an update on the traffic, how people can get around this.
Well, there's going to be some workarounds if you are coming into town. Dan, 885 is shut down right there at the Durham Freeway, and this is where it looks like. So Aaron was right here where the purple line is indicating the road is closed at Mangum. That's where the protest is happening. That's where the majority of those folks are centered right now. And so all the traffic back to the south heading into town, the northbound traffic is shut down. This is a DOT live camera for us, shows all of those protesters. They have a speaker that is set up right there. It does not appear as if they're planning to leave anytime soon. I do want to show you the Durham police putting on social media a short time ago. This is also new. Also on Pettigrew Street at South Mangum Street, there is a second protest. We're checking that out, but they're advising folks who drive in the area. Northbound 885 is being diverted onto Briggs Avenue, so that is the workaround if you're trying to get to the Durham Freeway. A lot of balls here to manage, and they are definitely up in the air here tonight as this is a fluid situation. I do want to show you one other picture here. Actually, it was just put away. This is Aaron's live picture, though. Police right here. This is what I wanted to mention. They're there in the center, so certainly close, not too far away from those protesters if anything happens. We'll certainly show it to you right here on WRAL. Dan?
All right, Mark, thank you.
New resources are coming to our area, ultimately reducing crime and keeping our communities safer. Raleigh is one of 5 cities picked to work with the federal government to reduce crime. Knoxville, Minneapolis, San Antonio, and Vallejo are the others. Raleigh is not the only city in our state to get it. Other cities in central and eastern North Carolina received funding too. We're talking about $1 billion. Only on WRAL, Destiny Patterson talked with the Associate Attorney General about how it will keep families safer.
Across the country, all of those grants add up to more than $5.6 billion. The ultimate goal is to reduce crime, and we'll see those impacts right here in our coverage area. Officials say it's about safety. One way to achieve that, filling in the gaps. $334 million are set aside to hire more officers. Among the recipients are Rolesville, Morrisville, and Hope Mills.
Probably the number one issue that I hear about from state and local law enforcement is this recruitment and retention crisis.
Durham, Fuquay-Varina, and the Department of Public Safety will also get a piece of the pie for community policing. That includes crisis intervention teams and de-escalation training.
As police departments hire, we want police departments to have access to the best training and training that is going to ensure community police trust and constitutional policing.
The Justice Department also named Raleigh one of the 5 new cities that will work with the federal government to reduce crime. Raleigh joins more than 50 cities across the country that make up the National Public Safety Partnership.
Raleigh was selected both because of its geographic location and some of its own challenges in violent crime, but also to the capacity of the city and law enforcement to absorb the technical assistance.
Raleigh will work with the Department of Justice over the course of 3 years. Officers will get consultant feedback, training, and other resources. This will be another tool RPD can use in its efforts to fight crime. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News.
Destiny's reporting there is the kind of reporting you'll find in the latest WRAL Data Trackers newsletter. It provides data-driven insights about neighborhoods across Raleigh. Go to WRAL.com/data trackers and sign up today.
A man is now in federal custody accused of threatening to shoot and kill children in Cary. Several of those threats allegedly targeting a daycare just feet from where he was living. 46-year-old Kevin Douglas was arrested Tuesday night for cyber stalking, but bonded out before the FBI then took him back into custody today. Authorities say he made 9 different threatening cyber tips to National Centers for Missing and Exploited Children. He said he wanted to kill and shoot Mexican children. Over the past 15 years, Douglas has been charged with cyber stalking 3 times in Wake County, but all of those cases were dismissed. He was released from federal prison in 2016 after he threatened to kill someone at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C.
We know when we see community after community where these active shooting situations have occurred. Unfortunately, sadly, as you know, had one in our own community a little over a year ago. Certainly threats against school children we're going to take very seriously.
Every threat is a threat that we must take seriously. That doesn't mean we should disrupt our daily lives. It doesn't mean that we should fret, but we should be vigilant. And anyone in the public who sees someone who could be mobilizing towards violence should pick up the phone and call the experts. Call 911.
So right now, Douglas is in the custody of U.S. Marshals. He has a federal detention hearing in Raleigh next week. WRAL also spoke to his mother today, who told us her son has a mental illness but refuses to get help.
Let's take a live look now at Raleigh. You know, I love this vantage point of Raleigh. It's just so beautiful. What it doesn't capture, though, is the cold. Temperatures will be dipping into the 20s in some parts of our area overnight. Meteorologist Kat Campbell is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with what we can expect when we wake up. Kat.
It is going to be a frigid start. Make sure that your kids have their hats and their coats out at the bus stop in the morning. As they are getting on the bus, temperatures are going to be in the upper 20s to lower 30s. We're forecasting a low of 30 in Raleigh, but Durham and Rocky Mount likely to get down to 28 degrees, mid-20s for Siler City and Roxborough, 30 in Wilson, 27 in Lewisburg, 31 in Fayetteville, 30 in Smithfield, and 25 in Sanford. No matter where you live, temperatures are expected to fall below freezing tonight. However, the growing season has ended across central North Carolina, so there will not be any additional frost advisories or freeze warnings until we get to the spring. But just as fast as temperatures fell, they're going to be going back up. I'll have a closer look at our warming trend coming up.
Thanks, Kat.
The FDA is putting out a warning that children could be at risk of getting too much of the Moderna COVID vaccine. The agency says vials of the vaccine for kids 6 months to 11 years old contain, quote, notably more than the correct single dose. So providers who withdraw the full amount into the shot could give a higher dose. Natalie Roberts says her 5.5-year-old daughter received a double dose of the vaccine at a clinic 2 weeks ago in Raleigh.
I understand human error, but this is not like you ordered too many tablecloths or something, like you've injected something into my child that you can't get out now.
Robert says her daughter had a fever, felt bad for about 12 hours or so after getting the shot. The FDA tells WRAL there have been no serious side effects reported due to a dosing error of this vaccine. The agency says it's working with Moderna to make sure the vaccine providers know the correct amount. So we are falling back this weekend. We're changing those clocks, and it's a time change that, let's just say, it annoys many of us. But if we had a year-round clock, should it be daylight saving time or standard time? We'll go in depth. And as we go to break, a live look again at the Durham Freeway, protesting groups blocking traffic in that area. We are on this. We have been for hours since that road has been closed. Stay with us for all the latest when we return.
All right, these protesters there on Durham Freeway are on the move. These are live pictures from one of the DOT shots. Aaron Thomas providing this for us. They were on the ground sitting for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, started around 5:30, and now they are on their feet standing in a circle blocking the northbound lanes of the Durham Freeway at Mangum. As I mentioned, this has been going on now for the better part of 2 hours. This is a pro-Palestinian protest that has spilled out onto the major road there, blocking traffic. We'll keep close tabs on this as police have threatened to move in and make arrests if they don't move. That has not happened at this point. We'll send things back to you.
All right, let's go in depth. I think that thing's broken. So this weekend, we fall back. The clocks change. We get an extra hour. Joe emailed me and said, Dan, he was writing to Dan at WRAL.com. He said, Dan, trying to find out what is the deal with the time change. We were discussing leaving it like it is now, year round. Now, I'll admit, this topic is way more complicated than it needs to be, but it is worth explaining. So, Joe, let's get into it. You see, right now, we're in what's called daylight saving time. And Sunday, we switch back to standard time. This is almost universally considered to be annoying. According to a new poll, more than half of the people in North Carolina want to get rid of changing the clocks altogether. The national survey shows similar numbers. But the real question isn't should we or shouldn't we, but it's where should we stay? You see, 46% want to stay in daylight saving time all year. 20% want to stay in standard time. Ask yourself, which camp are you in? Now, if you said standard time, that's easy. Any old state can do that. That's what Arizona and Hawaii do, as well as American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Parts of Indiana actually did it until 2006. They stay in standard time year-round. They don't spring forward, and they subsequently never fall back. But if you want to stay in daylight saving time year-round, that's when things get a little more complicated because of this, the Uniform Time Act of 1966. You see, this law got all the states on the same page in terms of time, telling everyone when to spring forward and when to fall back. It does give the option for states to opt out of changing the clocks, but if they do, they have to stay in standard time only, not daylight saving time, no matter how hard they've tried. All these states are states that have passed laws to stay in daylight saving time year-round. North Carolina considered one last year, House Bill 326. It passed in the House, but stalled in the Senate. Regardless, it's all performative because of that federal law. Although last year the U.S. Senate did pass the Sunshine Protection Act to make daylight saving last year-round. It passed unanimously, which was a bit of surprise since those people can't agree on anything. P.S. Little sidebar here. Can we stop giving these bills such pompous names? The Sunshine Protection Act. Don't you want to protect the sunshine? What kind of person doesn't want to protect sunshine? It's insufferable. Stop giving them catchy titles. Just call them what they are. It feels manipulative. These are laws, not pop songs. But I digress. The Sunshine Protection Act never made it to the House and lives currently in limbo. But another viewer named Michael reminded me of something that rarely makes it into this conversation. He said, pretty sure it's been tried before and always went back. And he's right. And I think this headline in the Washingtonian sums it up pretty well. The U.S. tried permanent daylight saving time in the 70s. People hated it. They used a clipping from the Washington Post from January of '74 showing kids getting off the school bus in the pitch black. Can you drop the banner there at the bottom for a second? Because I want people to see the laziest headline of all time. Daylight time is like darkness time. Who wrote that? Ralph from The Simpsons? Either way, by October of that year, the experiment was over. This is the New York Times, October 1st, 1974, Senate vote returns to standard time. Now, we've been asking people what they think about this on Megaphone today, and it sounds like most of you, what's it say, want to stay in standard time. So that would mean once we fall back, we would stay there year round. We would never go back into daylight saving time. If you're not into multiple choice, that might not be your thing, send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Tell me what's on your mind. We will go in depth. And Ashley, as you know, time is a touchy and confusing topic. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity in 1915, he found that time moves relative to an observer. So, for instance, this segment only lasted a few minutes, but to some it might have felt like an eternity.
Yeah, like me.
Right.
I kid. I think I'm in the camp of daylight saving time.
If that would be the case, there would be certain times during the shortest portion of daylight hours in the winter for us where the sun wouldn't even poke its head over the horizon until like 8:30.
Okay, so getting kids off to school would be tough.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you get to hang out later in the day. It's a tricky one. I don't know. Kat, what do you think?
We have sunset, Kat. What time do you have it at?
It's going to be 5:15 on Sunday. I did have a viewer message me. I think they probably mentioned this to you, Dan, but I thought it was a good idea. They said, what if we just split the difference? Go half an hour, go in between. Everybody's happy for the year. Something to think about. It may just complicate things even more, though. So let's look at Sunday. The sun will rise at 6:40 a.m. The sun will set at 5:15 p.m. on Sunday. You get the extra hour of sleep Saturday night. But I want to focus on the warming weekend that we have ahead. 70 degrees is our high on Saturday. We're up to 71 on Sunday. There is a key to this forecast, though, and it's the morning lows. Sunday morning, it's going to be 42. Saturday morning, we're going to be in the 30s. So it's not going to be warm all day long. By any means, you'll need to dress in layers. You'll wake up to temperatures in the upper 30s Saturday morning. By noon, 59, 60s to lower 70s during the afternoon. And then around dinner time, temperatures are going to be falling back into the upper 50s to lower 60s. No rain this weekend and no rain through much of next week. We have a very dry forecast. The issue here is when you look at how much rain we've seen over the past month, these numbers for pretty much the entire state of North Carolina are only about 30 to 50% of our normal rainfall during that time period. So we are very dry, and the drought status was updated today, and we saw significant growth of the moderate drought into the Sandhills, Fayetteville, Chatham County, points west in this tan color, even severe drought in the southwestern part of our state. If you live in the Triangle, we are not yet to drought status, but we are abnormally dry in much of the eastern half of our viewing area, and that's the warning stage before you go under moderate drought. Given the El Nino this winter, I don't think we'll be in the extended drought. But for tomorrow, all is clear, just cold, and that's why the WRAL tower is lit up blue on Western Boulevard. Temperatures this evening are going to be in the 40s and then fall into the 30s and 20s. If you are out and about tonight, look for Jupiter. It's going to be closest to the Earth this week, visible all night. And if you do have a set of binoculars and maybe a steady hand, you can actually see some of Jupiter's largest moons. Our 7-day forecast shows our big warming trend. High temperatures in the 70s from the weekend all the way through next week. We have a couple of mornings left in the 20s and 30s before we're back in the 50s for lows next week.
I got to say, those 70s will feel good after the last couple of days. Thanks, Kat.
As we go to break, we continue to follow that breaking news in Durham. We have cameras there, have for some time now, as a group of protesters calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas have been blocking traffic on the very busy Durham freeway for hours now. We'll have a live update after this.
Hi, I'm Aaron Thomas here live from the Durham freeway, where as of about 2.5 hours now, this road has been blocked by pro-Palestinian protesters. Currently, Durham police are telling them they are not in violation of certain laws, telling them and ordering them to move from this road. This has been happening since about 5:30 this evening. The crowd has dispersed since that time, but it's still a significant presence. Even with the orders from police, these folks are now still chanting for a ceasefire over in the Middle East. This is a story we have been following for hours, and of course, we'll continue to monitor on the ground and online. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you. Yes, the police seem to be intensifying there just a bit.
Let's just hope that this all ends peacefully.
Yes.
A discussion about clean energy took center stage in Raleigh today.
Governor Roy Cooper spoke at the Making Energy Work conference, highlighting the benefits of transitioning away from fossil fuel. He stressed that more renewable energy on the grid could make customers' bills cheaper and that sustainable business growth is supporting the state's bottom line. The clean energy economy employs about 100,000 or so workers in the state. Developers have invested more than $68 billion over the past 15 years from companies, including companies like VinFast. You'll soon be able to take off from RDU to Iceland daily and year-round.
Icelandair says the newly introduced route exceeded expectations since its 2022 launch. As a result, travelers will be able to book flights daily to Reykjavik starting May 20th. More than 70,000 people have flown the route so far. The route initially launched with just a 4-day service from May through October. There are a lot of people who use Reykjavik as well as a way to get to other parts of Europe. So it's a great place for us to be able to fly to nonstop.
And people who are going as tourists. Kat Campbell went when they first launched that, as well as our producer Stephanie just got back from a nice trip.
Yeah.
And nothing bad to say about these trips. People are having good times. Well, thank you so much for being with us here on WRAL News.
We continue following that breaking news. The Durham Freeway still shut down. You heard the police trying to get these protesters to clear. We will keep you updated throughout the evening with any significant updates.
We have seen the police standing alongside the protesters, but for the first time they seem to be saying commands at them. So you saw Aaron Thomas out there. Stay with us on social media and on WRAL.com. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.